Today, I want to talk about my communication style and how I engage with people who disagree with me, because that's definitely something that has been heavily influenced by one YouTube channel in particular, and that channel is Jubilee. Jubilee has a couple ongoing series where they bring together a group of people who disagree with one another. One of them is called Middle Ground, and it's where it's pretty much what it sounds like. You bring together people who disagree and try to find a middle ground. And then there's also one called Surrounded, where you have one expert surrounded by about 25 people who disagree with them, and those people take turns coming up and debating the expert. And what happens is you get to see an awful lot of different debating styles, and you get a feel for who you're inclined to listen to and who you're not inclined to listen to. For example, you definitely see some people that are ignorant and stubborn in their ignorance. You can see someone else presenting them with facts, and those people just disregard the facts and say, I don't believe that. Or you bring up a compelling issue and the other person will just say, well, I don't think that's a problem. Those people just need to deal with it. And they seem very stuck in their mindset and unable to engage with the thorniness of the issue. And when I see that happening, it really gives me an indication to how do people form their views at all. If you are just so insistent that you know what's right, that you start ignoring any facts that don't confirm that it's right, I'm not inclined to really trust you as a trustworthy source. Similarly, you see some people get so emotional that they resort to personal attacks, and they just fail to have any sort of calm and rational and respectful discussion. And again, I feel like the way that you present yourself really presents your way of thinking. That if you cannot look at something rationally, you just get your emotions overwhelming you, I don't know that I'm going to trust you either. On the other hand, when you see someone who is being gracious and intelligent and really listening to the person across the table from them, engaging with their ideas, considering them, giving a thoughtful response, those are the people that can change my mind, that can make me see, this is a person who is very skilled at actually listening to and taking into consideration different perspectives, which means that they probably did some really good work in looking at this issue and could probably educate me and inform me. There are two people in particular that just really, they're like my role models. They kind of inspired me. One of them is a woman named Soraya, and she comes to the table with a very different approach than what I typically see. She does a lot of asking questions that, someone says, I think we should have this policy in place. Instead of trying to dissuade them with, well, here's some other statistics, she just starts asking them, well, how would that look in practice? How would you address these shortcomings? If these people are struggling because of that, what is your plan to address that? And it's great because it's not confrontational. It doesn't make the person defensive. And I think it makes the person who really is very invested in this able to look more critically at their own ideas. Another thing in particular, oh my gosh. So there's this one moment, and it actually brought me to tears, honestly, because you had, I think it was 25 Democrats sitting on one side and 25 Republicans on the other, just getting into heated arguments, getting angry at one another. And Soraya was on the Democrat side, and she stood up at one point and she spoke to the Republicans, and she said something to the effect of that there was a bit of a culture war back in the 1960s with the civil rights movement. Republicans ended up on the losing side of history, the wrong side of history. And ever since then, it has been very hard for Republicans to get their values heard, that they are being told that they are evil and they are wrong, and that it's hard as a Republican right now to stand up for what you're feeling. And it just struck me because it was seeing the humanity in people she disagreed with in just a more profound way than I think I've ever seen. You know, I've seen some people talk about people who disagree with them and seeing their humanity in the sense of like, oh, well, these people also want to provide for their kids, or they want to have a job and contribute to society, but it's limited. A lot of people don't really see the earnest desire to make this country a good country in the minds of people who disagree with them. And I feel like she really actually did that. And I think it just opened up such a place of connection where I never see that. It was such a beautiful moment. I'm going to link to it in the description because it really was beautiful. And something I'd like to aim for myself is just really seeing the goodness even in people that I disagree with. One other person that I wanted to bring up is Amala Ekpenobi. And I was introduced to her from Jubilee videos, but she actually has her own whole YouTube channel that I did go down that rabbit hole and start watching some of those videos. And there was one video in particular that it's just living in my mind rent-free because it was a response video to people saying nasty things about her. And this is just something that for me, starting to make these YouTube videos and put stuff on the internet is something that I'm trying to figure out how I want to deal with it, is when people say unkind things to me or resort to personal attacks. How do I respond to that? And let me tell you, the stuff that these people said about her, nastier than anything anybody has ever said to me. And she just, first of all, she didn't like clap back. She didn't resort to personal attacks. She really stuck to the substance of what these people were saying about her and addressed those comments and really calmly explained why they were wrong and what was actually going on. And then she said in her video, you know, I would welcome anyone who is criticizing me, come on this channel, you can choose the topic and we can actually debate these issues as adults. And it was just a very good example to me of how do you react when someone is being unkind. You know, first of all, don't stoop down to their level, continue to be mature and gracious, but more importantly, stay on topic. Stay focused on what you are actually discussing, because if you really want to contribute to an enriching civil discourse, you need to stay focused on what's important and not get derailed by personal attacks. So long story short, what I try to engage in personally is the embodiment of those women and anyone else who is really staying open-minded and listening and being gracious and seeing the goodness and humanity in everyone.